Welcome, everybody, to episode 6 of Rook Exchange. This is the first time we're doing a virtual interview. We have the pleasure of having financial planner Jim Crider, also business owner. We're going to be talking about finance, personal finance, other things as well around that topic. Jim, it's a pleasure to have you. I'd love it if you just introduce yourself, tell us about you, tell us about anything you'd like to tell us about regarding, let's say, how you got started in financial planning, what led you to start your own business, that kind of stuff. We'll just start with the basics there.
That's a lot of basics about me and
That's a lot of
financial
basics.
planning and how I got started. So about me, let's see, I'm a husband and a dad of 4 young kids. I'm in Texas. I own a financial planning company. We help people with their money and their life. It's super fun. As far as how I got into finance, years back. Probably about 9 years ago, I started thinking about, I was between careers, trying to figure out what in the world I wanted to do. And I was thinking about just how financial stress is one of the top causes of suicide and also one of the top causes of divorce year after year. And I really wanted to help families have healthy conversations around their money. And also was just thinking about conversations I heard even as a kid, like, oh, I wish we could go to Europe, but we can't afford that. It's like, dude, you've got a satellite on your roof. I'm sure that costs something. Like, if you drop satellite for 2 years, but you could go to Europe. Maybe that seems really heartless and cold, but I just started thinking, like, I wish I could help people align their money with what's truly important to them. And then again, have healthy conversations around money. So that was the genesis of me getting into personal finance. I had no clue what all this stuff was. I just knew I wanted to help people have healthy conversations with their money and use it for what was important to them. So that started me into like really basic helping people with 401k, stuff like that. I moved into, I got licenses and my CFP and moved into a role where I was helping mostly like physicians with retirement planning. Left the firm I was at, I got very opinionated on what depth of financial planning can and should look like, in my opinion. Went to another financial planning firm, was there for a brief stint. During that time, I really went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And all the while, the writing was on the wall. I've always been very entrepreneurial since I was very young. And I was pretty confident at that point, okay, I need to start my own firm one day. And yeah, it just became evident that was the way to go. So left that firm and started my own financial planning company early 21. We went incomeless. It was 3 weeks before our third kid was due. My wife was a stay-at-home mom, and I jumped ship from that firm. And we said, okay, we'll do this minimum 1 year, if not 2 years, of no income, and starting a business. So it was super fun, and we're doing it. It's exciting. I've always wanted to run a successful business, and I feel like I'm actually doing it. It's crazy.
That is so awesome. Truly, truly awesome, Jim. So your business is called Intentional Living, FP, or do you just call it Intentional Living?
Intentional living. FP is in financial planning, but yeah, intentional living.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, I love that. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in financial planning, we're mostly talking about retirement. We're mostly talking about what you can be doing to plan for your future. Is that wrong, or is it kind of a really common theme within financial planning to talk about the current as well?
My job is to live anywhere and everywhere that your life and your money intersect. And of course that can involve retirement or investments, but also involves tax planning, and about 80% of our clients own businesses. So a lot of business consulting, estate planning, cash flow and savings rates, and real estate, and anything and everything that has to do with your money in your life. Those are conversations we have. So, like, for instance, Richie, I don't know your wife's name, but I imagine when you and your wife are laying in bed at night, I doubt she rolls over and it's like, hey, babe, how's our small cap mutual funds doing? That's really keeping me up. Like, that's not what's happening. She's thinking like, hey, should we be saving for our kids' school? Or like, what would it look like for us, as we keep having more kids, what would it look like for us to get a new house? And if we got a new house, should we keep this one to rent it out? Or do we just sell this so we can buy a new house? And what would it look like for me to stay at home with the kids, or for you to start your own business? Like, how do we do these things? And like, deep down in there, maybe mutual funds do play a role, but generally broad thematically what we do is, where your life and your money meet, that's what we do.
I love that. That's really awesome. So one thing that you mentioned there is Now, something that I'm actually facing in my life, and this is absolutely not an episode about financial planning for Richie, right? But for all of those out there, everybody out there who got into a house, let's say, 4 years ago or something like that, or 5 years ago, they have an absolutely excellent interest rate. So I'm at 3% right now. So like, what do you think that means in terms of like everybody that owns houses that has that super low interest rate or something like that? What do you think that means for everybody in terms of like, should I be getting another house, or should I live here for as long as I possibly can? Do you have any quick advice on that?
Oh man. Well, it means a lot. It means one, the interest rates plus just the how high prices got a couple years ago. Like sellers have still anchored into 2021 prices. So because of these things, there's this massive bid-ask spread. So sellers are like, dude, I'm not going to drop my price. I know what this could go for 2 years ago. And they're stuck in this mindset of what it could have been. And then buyers are sitting here like, look, this is literally the worst affordability a house has ever been in history. I cannot buy this thing. And no one's budging. Well, the sellers aren't budging because they just refuse to. And the buyers aren't budging because they can't. The only inventory that's really moving is new builds because the builders are like, crud, we have to keep moving inventory. And they can do in-house loans, give you a 2-1 buy down, and give you an interest rate for 5% instead of a 7% or whatever. And that's really what's moving for the most part. So that's painful. From a buyer's perspective, like I feel really bad for people, like especially like in your like 25 to 31. Like all those people, it's like right at the age of like, all right, I want to buy now. It's like, dude, you're not usually aren't in a place of a career where you can really afford like, hey, I need a starter house. But starter houses don't exist. Starter houses got scooped up by some hedge fund that cranked up the prices plus the interest rates. Like starter houses now cost what like an intermediate house would have cost a few decades back. So I feel bad for them. And then the sellers, yeah, the implications there. Hey, should we keep this and rent it out? Like, it certainly makes cash flow a lot more appealing. Like, if you went and bought a property today and were trying to cash flow that thing, probably not going to happen. One, you either have to put a fat down payment down, which just drains your liquidity, or you're not going to do that, and you're going to either hope for further price increase on rents, and that your capex and all those things stay low, so eventually you start cash flowing, or you're speculating on future appreciation. So if you're going out and buying a house now, so if you're gonna get a rental, really the good rentals that exist are the houses that you already own at a 3% interest rate. So now you're sitting there thinking, well, man, do I grab this house and turn it into a rental property and pick up some good cash flow, or man, I have $250,000 of equity in this thing. Do we sell that, roll it into our new purchase because the interest rate and the cost of our new house is going to cost so much? I need to pay as much down on our new house as possible, and we need the equity in our existing house in order to do that. Or lastly, do you take the equity in your existing house, you move, and yeah, you don't put this fatty down payment on a new place. Instead, you take that equity and you invest it elsewhere, be it in Bitcoin or any other asset. Like, you have these competing decisions. Like, yeah, there's so many decisions to be made. And a lot of people think that by staying stagnant or not doing anything, that they're not making a decision. But inactivity is a decision itself. And that's where like there's this place right now of you're stuck, unfortunately, and some people aren't deciding to be stuck, but some people are stagnant due to analysis paralysis or fear or greed versus looking for opportunity and casting long-term vision and trying to extrapolate long-term vision into present action. That's what's going to keep you taking proper action. But that was a long ramble. Sorry.
No, please. I love these rambles, and that's really, really interesting. I'll give you an example. Something that my wife and I have talked about is, since we have this low interest rate in the current home that we're in right now, what if we stayed here as long as we possibly could? Basically, not as long as we possibly could, but we would save as long as we possibly could until it made sense for our money that we have in our bank to be a down payment on a different house. We would move into the new house, the bigger house, and we would rent this property that we have. something like that. And that's actually a very common theme, at least in my experience, in the conversations that I've had with other people talking about, man, I'm locked in at this really great interest rate. I think I'm going to try to save, get a different property, live there, rent this current property, that kind of thing. I just hear this type of conversation all the time. And honestly, like, it's really only the last like 5 to 6 years that I've been hearing anything of this nature. Do you think that's just simply because of this super low interest rate, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think part of it is because of interest rate environment, where the last couple of years has brought in this massive chasm of affordability and inaffordability. And if you bought prior to 2020, even at that point, like if you think of 2019, houses felt like, and they were like crazy expensive. And it was like, how can this possibly get worse? And it did. So yeah, it has got to it's become more of a focal point of conversations for that.
Yeah.
With what you're looking for, I think that can make a lot of sense for sure. My wife and I, we bought 2 houses, both with the intent of turning them into rentals. Both times we decided to sell for a few reasons. One, I am like the antithesis of a handyman. And if, I could probably pay a property manager, but that's going to eat into 10% of my cash flow. So I just don't want to mess with that. And then considering opportunity cost, and I think that other assets will outperform. So yeah, there's those things. Now, of course, you could, I don't know how, like if you have a whole bunch of equity in your house and you're looking like, man, I eventually want this cash flow, but right now the opportunity cost of dropping it into something else, I feel like I'm worried about missing out on that. You could do something short term. It would be relatively speculative, but you could take a HELOC or home equity loan that's going to be like at 8% interest or so, but grab that HELOC, throw it into another investment, hope that does well, sell that investment, pay off that HELOC, and you've just made some money, and you have your initial actual primary mortgage as well. So you could do that. So yeah, but no, what you're talking about, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's going to be a lot of people. A few years ago, when interest rates started climbing a lot, I think there were a lot more conversations of like, we're going to do this, and I think everyone thought they were. But as affordability's fallen off the map, and as people in their like mid-30s have got to a point of like, man, I want to go to a house that can fit more kids, they've realized, crud, that thing I wanted to do, I can't. I have to sell this house. And so I think at first there was a huge push of people wanting to do what you're describing, and that's starting to slow down because it went from hopes to practicality, sort of took it away a little bit.
That makes a lot of sense. I have a follow-up question regarding anybody out there who owns more than one property. I'm curious if you have any thoughts regarding if you're going to have other people stay there in order to generate income. What are your thoughts on renting it out long-term in like sections, right? Like a year here, a year there, 2 years, whatever it might be, like renting versus Airbnb, trying to keep that house or keep that property like packed, right, for an entire year and even so on and so forth. What do you think between Airbnb and renting?
That's going to be very location specific.
Okay.
If you look at if you can keep it rented on a nightly basis, and if you can, have responsible people in there, like especially as Airbnbers, in theory, yeah, that would lead to a lot more income. Your overhead's going to be a little bit higher with, nightly, every couple night turnovers and all those fun things, maybe providing amenities. But yeah, that in theory could lead to a lot more income, but it's also going to be less consistent for sure versus having a 1-year lease. Mm-hmm. So, that's where I think a lot of people are starting to get burned with Airbnbs as municipalities start cracking down on what's allowed. And you have a lot of people who between like 2015 to 2019 speculatively bought a lot of properties thinking they're going to Airbnb it. So some areas have almost too many Airbnbs out there, and yeah, like the cities are coming out and saying, "Hey, we're not going to allow this anymore." So yeah, it could be well.
Yep.
Again, what it comes down to partially is going to be your involvement, or I have a buddy who's right down the hallway from me. That's what he does. He does property management for Airbnbs, and he does
Nice.
great. And he owns a lot of them. He does really well. I have friends who own Airbnbs. I have clients who own Airbnbs. I'm like, they do great. You just have to know what you're walking into.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense for sure. Okay, let's talk a little bit about intentional living. I'm really curious about your company. What is it that your company does specifically that you would say maybe differentiates you from other financial planning firms or something like that? What tell us about intentional living?
Let's see. It's a few months ago, I taught some classes at a local school, and went in and I taught a class on entrepreneurship to juniors and seniors, and then I did a series on Bitcoin to these kids. And at the end, one of the kids asked me like, who are your top competitors for your business? And this is bad business strategy, but like I haven't thought in a while from like a analysis of competition. And I've chewed on that since then, and I've come to realize like I don't feel like I'm competing with other people. I refer out business a lot. It's important to me that anyone I work with is an absolute ideal fit. And if they're not, that's totally fine. I probably know who is a great fit, and I can give them in contact. Or if they are, I want to tell them that with absolute conviction. Now, your question is, okay, well then, if it's different, what is that determining factor if they're going to be a perfect fit? How are we different? So I guess there's a few tenets. One, we lean really heavily into life. Like it's really important to me that obviously good financial planning, like that's table stakes. You need to know how you can actually help people. You can't be like, oh, I have a good handshake and I care about people, but you're a moron. Like, I don't care how much you care about someone. If you're bad at planning for them, you're going to wreck them. And you'd be better off, if you really cared about them, but you're bad at your job, you'd be better off telling them not to work with you. And I know people like that. It's like, dude, you're a fantastic guy. I know people like this who run financial planning companies. Amazing people, have the best heart, want to help people, and frankly, the best thing they could do is to tell people to not work with them. But that's their business. They're not going to do that. It's like, would you prefer your mom there? And if the answer is no, like I don't know how do you bring in business? I couldn't do that in good faith. So table stakes is good at your job, but money is a tool to help you do what's important to you in life. So it is really important that I know what's important to my clients, and helping them. I said this earlier, align their money with what's important to them in the most efficient and effective manner. So we take a big picture. What is important to you? What do you value as a family? We anchor into that big time. So, like for instance, there's a family we work with, and up front, when we first start working together, one thing we have our clients do is have them create what we call a statement of financial purpose, which is basically a mission statement for your money. So this family, they said that they desire financial independence so they can make moments and memories as a family. And they have two youngish daughters. They were like preteens at the time. And client called me one night, said, "Hey Jim, we're looking to buy a house down the street. Should we buy it?" And we talked through the numbers real quick. I was like, "Yeah, you can definitely afford it. You'll be totally fine. More importantly, why do you want to move like 4 houses down the road? That's terrible. Like no one likes moving. Why would you do this?" And he said, "Well, our current house is great and all, but the house down the street has a pool, and they live in Texas, and he said our daughters, whenever they hang out with their friends, are always gone because all of their friends have pools at their house. And if we get this house with a pool, we know that they'll be here more often." And I said, "Hold on one second." So I ran, and this was like I was cooking dinner or something. We were just talking, and I ran, grabbed their information. It was like I read to him verbatim what he told me is the most important, is to make moments and memories as a family. I said, "Look, you can afford this thing. So you said the most important thing for you as with your money is to create moments and memories as a family. Your daughters will be under your roof for like 6, 7 more years, and then they're gone. Like, yeah, maybe you're not going to be able to retire at 52. Instead, it's going to be 54. But you didn't say that's the most important thing. So please go buy this house." Like people aren't spreadsheets; they're people, and that's really important. So that's one thing. Also, I take a lot of flack for this on how I view investments and things. So I think it's important to consider macroeconomic and monetary environment with investments. Most financial planners out there would say that that is trying to time the market, and it's better to stick your head in the sand and not try to get involved. I consider that to an extent. When I first got into finance, I actually thought I wanted to run a hedge fund, and then I went full pendulum swing over to like the financial planner world, where you just buy index funds. Anything else besides that is whatever, heresy. And I found this equilibrium. Like, there's no way I'm smart enough to beat the market daily, but I'm not a moron. Like, I can recognize there's things going on that either don't make sense or just make total sense that we should lean into. So that influences how we invest as well. I mean, besides that, there's a lot of problems with financial planning, but one of the biggest problems is pretty much anyone could go take a test over a weekend for your insurance license and then get business cards that say that you're an investment guy or you're a finance dude, and you just sell people insurance products. And in reality, you're just hosing the people you work with, and that's tough. So, I mean, I get new clients all the time who I'm going through, like right now, several new clients who have joined over the last quarter, who I'm going through and correcting things that their old financial planner and their CPA have missed with tax planning and just all kinds of goofy things. So, yeah.
So one of our really good friends here at Rook Exchange, one of our really good friends, actually was in a previous episode. I believe he was episode 1, if I'm not mistaken. He was a finance guy, right? And he works for this larger company. He's in finance. We talked a little bit about that, but mainly we talked about other things. But every time we should trust him, according to him, he says, "Dude, I'm a finance guy." He says, "Finance bro, trust me." Right? He's a finance pro. So what you're telling me, Jim, is that we should only trust him with a grain of salt, and we should probably not trust him sometimes. I'm just kidding.
No, like I, as you've seen already, I over-explain everything. I over-explain everything because for a few reasons. One, I want you to understand and have conviction in what I tell you. So if I tell you, hey, you should go buy Bitcoin, if I tell you that and I don't tell you why and like the stuff behind it, you're going to go and like maybe tomorrow at work, you're going to tell a friend like, oh, my financial planner told me to buy Bitcoin. They're going to be like, what, are you insane? Then you're not going to buy it. And there's a chance you're going to fire me. You're never going to buy Bitcoin. And there we go. Because I did not educate you on why you should. Or I should say, hey, we're going to accelerate some taxes into this present year so we can save taxes in the long run. If I don't tell you actually why and how that works, you're not going to want to do that, because it's like, why would anyone pay more taxes this year than I'd have to, not knowing that mathematically that will help us pay less taxes overall. So I have to educate. And two, like, I don't want people to walk away and leave and have this level of distrust. And then, or just be dependent upon me. Like, don't just trust me because I say something. That'd be terrible. Let's have a conversation. Like, so much of my job is not me telling you do this. I very rarely tell clients specifically what to do. Usually it's, hey Jim, I'm looking to do this thing. What do you think? And my job is to like pull out the drawer and just throw everything on the table that could be remotely involved in that decision and say, all right, let's look at all these things from every angle possible and just make an informed decision. And there's going to be times where like, I think you should do this, but you've seen why in what context that whole decision's made. And I need your buy-in too. Yeah, for sure. Now, you've mentioned a couple times Bitcoin, right? And so we love cryptocurrency here at Rook Exchange, and this is one of the many reasons why we were excited to chat with you, Jim, because it's really, really refreshing to see a financial planner who embraces cryptocurrency. And so with that, tell us a little bit about your opinions on cryptocurrency, and maybe if you could break it down between Bitcoin and maybe some other cryptocurrencies. What are some of your thoughts? My thoughts. I'm a Bitcoin only guy. How I come to that conclusion is you have to begin with the question that was begged up front in order to come up with the proper answer. If you start off with an answer, then you don't know if it's correct if you don't know what question was being addressed initially. So the question is not like the thing that's going to go up the most over a short period of time or maybe over a long period of time. That's purely speculative. The question is not what technology is the most disruptive or what has the most features. The question that was being addressed is how do we create a money that is peer-to-peer and decentralized and has a fixed supply? How do we create that? And that's what Bitcoin is. So you can create other cryptocurrencies that have other neat features. And some of these will probably do really well in some specific application. Like I'm looking at my office is across the street from our town's courthouse. Maybe someone will create like municipal district coin, and it's like somehow a I don't know, decentralized ledger of municipal documents that everyone should be able to audit. And it's like, wow, that's really valuable because now municipalities can't sweep things under the rug because everyone can look at this and it's totally decentralized so no one can hide things. And that would be really cool. But that's not money, and that's not the thing that Bitcoin set out to solve. So that's why I anchor to Bitcoin only, because the question I'm looking for is what is the best form of money, and I think Bitcoin solves that. So that's where I approach these things. I don't really pay too much attention to other cryptos. I don't know much about them, frankly. Just I don't have too much time. So yeah, we all of our clients own Bitcoin, have exposure to it in some capacity. I don't view Bitcoin as this like special thing within financial planning in a sense. Just like I don't view tax planning as a special thing in financial planning. It's just part of it. Like it's just part of good financial planning. Bitcoin just happens to stick out like a sore thumb because it's unusual. I think that one day it will not be unusual. It will just be viewed as good financial planning, just like any other part of like cash flow planning is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you tell us and expand a little bit on that word decentralized? So like what makes Bitcoin decentralized? That's something that I'd like to understand, and I think our audience would love to understand as well.
Yeah, so it's a ledger system. So Bitcoin's not a new thing. Like some people think that Bitcoin was created by like a 25-year-old kid so he can drive a Lambo or something goofy. This is something that since the 70s, the dawn of the internet as we know it, or not even as we know it, the dawn of the internet was basically, is there a way to have something that is not controlled by one group? That was sort of worked on in the 80s, started getting really worked on in the 90s, and then Satoshi Nakamoto was able to crack the two big problems that people were facing up until then. And one of those big problems was a decentralized ledger. So basically, removing one trusted third party from keeping a central ledger and allowing that to be distributed to anyone and everyone who would like to review that ledger system. That's where the blockchain protocol comes in. So yeah, that again removes the need to trust somebody that, hey, this bank or this government is accounting for the proper number of units where they should be, where they shouldn't be, but rather saying anyone who wants to audit this can.
Love it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So Bitcoin has had a lot of ups and downs over the years, and we've seen everything from Bitcoin being worth less than $1 in 2013, and we've seen it go all the way up to around $70,000 for one Bitcoin. I'm not going to ask you for any types of predictions in the future or anything like that, because like you said, that's purely speculative, right? But are you surprised by how much Bitcoin has gone up over the last decade, and honestly, over the last 5 years?
If you asked me in 2012 that if I thought that Bitcoin would hit 70,000 and you told me it would, I would be outrageously surprised. And that's because I didn't know what Bitcoin was when I first heard about it. Understanding what Bitcoin is now, it does not surprise me at all that it hits 70,000. Just like I don't think it will surprise me at all when it hits significantly higher. Yeah, I think the understanding of what it is highly correlated with your surprise or lack thereof with price.
Yeah, for sure. Now, let's put a price prediction aside, right? Let's just say Jim Crider, financial planner, is not giving us a price prediction here. But would you think it's possible for Bitcoin to get to some of those numbers that we've been hearing out there, like that $500,000 mark or even beyond? Do you think that's even possible?
Yeah, for sure. I would be astonished if Bitcoin does not hit that in the next 10, 15 years. And most people who are super into Bitcoin would call me bearish for saying that. And that's not, I'm not guaranteed that's going to happen. And all the legal disclosures, that's, past performance doesn't indicate future success, all those things.
Yeah.
I personally, I think that Bitcoin will do really well. Now, where the price comes in is two parts. So we can make arbitrary numbers. So like over next to me over here, I have a I don't know, $100 trillion Zimbabwean note. So if you lived in Zimbabwe 20 years back, and let's say you had this like really crummy piece of land that was like sort of swampy and stuff, and it was like one day this piece of land is going to be worth a gazillion dollars. It's like, why? Like, are they going to find gold on this land? Is it going to be in the middle of like Zimbabwe's Manhattan? Why is that the case? And it wouldn't make sense. So when we say that Bitcoin will hit X dollars, you have to arrive at that from two perspectives. One, that can come from nominal return. So nominal return, if the government keeps printing money, which they're pretty much forced to do, Bitcoin could go up triple from here, but every other asset goes up in tandem, and therefore Bitcoin stayed flat. In real returns, if Bitcoin's going to go up in real returns, it has to do so to the detriment of other assets. Okay? So where that comes in my opinion, is pretty much every other asset out there has a monetary premium assigned to it. So real estate, for instance, like when you go and buy a house, especially over the last decade, if you were to go buy a house, or a home rather, you're not competing against like people like you. You're competing against some people like you, but you're also competing against like 5 private equity companies and like Blackstone, all these people. And that's because they've come to recognize that, all right, we cannot keep our value in dollars. We need to diversify that into other assets. And one of those assets is a house. So houses are no longer homes, they're financial assets. So because of that, the price of houses has gone up significantly. That difference between what a home should be and what a house is what's called a monetary premium. And I think it's pretty significant. We look at that across a ton of assets, from money to bonds to stocks. Like right now, like basically every index is just through the roof. And a significant portion of that is because of this monetary premium. That's so many people just save their money into an index fund, and they're not investing directly per se. They're just buying things because they know that I need to at least retain my purchasing power over a prolonged period of time. If money was healthy and you weren't forced to speculate by investing, you could just keep your dollars as dollars, or your money as money, and just assume that it'll continue to keep its purchasing power. You wouldn't be forced to invest. So anyways, I think Bitcoin, people will start recognizing that, okay, Bitcoin is a superior form of value retention over long periods of time. It's significantly better than real estate because you don't have capex or repairs or vacancies or all these other things associated with, or property taxes, all these things. You can just buy Bitcoin and put it in cold storage and not have to worry about it. So I think people start waking up to that, and thus dollars will start leaving real estate, going over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin will go up in real terms, and real estate will go down in real terms. And I think you're going to see that sucking out of value from other assets being reassigned to Bitcoin. So that's how you get this difference. And again, we could say Bitcoin will go up to $1 gazillion, and that comes in with like the Zimbabwean note. Like, what are we measuring things in? And as the U.S. dollar just continues to go up, the measuring stick gets skewed. Things get really goofy there.
That's really interesting. Wow, that's really, really interesting. I've always been a Bitcoin enthusiast. I've always been, interested in it. I've dabbled a little bit in other coins as well, but it's just really, really interesting what it's doing and what it's done. And I feel like there was a moment where Bitcoin was doing really good in the world. We heard about El Salvador or something like that taking Bitcoin on as a national currency, that kind of thing. What do you think it would take, Jim? What do you think it would take for more countries in the world to adopt Bitcoin as a nationally accepted currency? And do you think that is vitally important to the success of Bitcoin?
As far as what it will take, it'll take, those countries' leaders to be bold and frankly have some level of desperation. That sounds bad for Bitcoin, but it requires that. Like, if you can sit on your laurels and be okay, like the U.S. will probably be really late to this switch because we're comfortable. Versus, you're going to see this mostly with like second world countries, maybe some third world countries who have the ability to control their currency will go ahead and start adopting it earlier. because they're at a place of like, I have to make a decision, and this is not working for us. A lot of people who have been massively abused from the petrodollar system, or just our ability to print currency, and they're so far down in the cancel-on effect, they just get run over every time we create new dollars. Like, they're the last one to get paid. They're like an old lady living off a pension, and as new dollars are printed, they are not experiencing the appreciation of those dollars, not getting the new units. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of like second and third world countries, but it's going to have to be, you're going to be a bold leader. You're going to have to do that. And yeah, so it's going to take that. As far as, is it necessary? I would not say necessary, but certainly helpful. I think it will be a lot of individuals who are going out and building up momentum. And it cannot be built on individuals who are buying this thing as a short-term speculative asset, who are not anchored in education. It'll have to be people who are built and rooted in education, who have long-term conviction, who are building a higher and higher threshold of, this is the new class of people who understand Bitcoin, and that will inch up. That's why every halving period, every 4 years, you see this new high or low compared to the last low, and also a new high. It's because you have this wave of people who come in. Some of them are speculators, some of them are educated buyers, and then as the speculators eventually get wiped out, but within there you have this new group of people who learned about it, and it just inches up slowly. So as more individuals learn about this, and then eventually you'll have more countries that get in, and just gonna make the wave pile up quicker. So
I love that. Very cool. Yeah, good. Well, these are all great. These are all great answers, and we're learning a lot from you, Jim. There was one question that we had written out that we wanted to ask you that we have no idea how you're going to answer it, but we're curious. What do you think is a common misconception about financial planning that you'd like the world to know the truth about?
Dang. I guess the sort of on the nose one that comes to mind is that financial planning is just investments. Like, okay, I give my money to this guy and he manages my investments for me. Be it he puts it in mutual funds, or he picks stocks, or he throws in this insurance product that has a investment wrapper within it. Investing is part of financial planning, but that is not financial planning in and of itself. So, yeah, you come across that all the time. People think that's what I do. They think I sit behind a wall of monitors watching stocks all day. Like, no, there's so much more. And if your financial planner is not talking to you about tax planning and these other things, then you're missing out on a massive amount of value that a financial planner should be doing for you.
That makes sense. Awesome.
Or they should just call themselves an investment manager, and then that's great because they're properly titled.
Exactly. All right, Jim. Well, this was great. So, yeah, we learned a lot. Thank you for answering all of those questions. We will have one more question after we play our chess game, that we do this thing where we give a prompt to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will create a question for you based on your background, based on some of the things that you do, and even some of the answers that you gave in this interview. And so we're gonna get that going after the chess game. But let's go ahead and get into the chess game, Jim. I am going to share my screen here, and we're going to boot it up. And in just a moment, for the audience, you're going to see the chess.com screen appear, and you're going to see Rook Exchange versus Jim Crider. So you're going to see a notification here in just a moment. But before that, Jim, would you like to play as the white side or the black side?
I don't even know the difference. Who goes first?
White goes first.
Here, you go first.
Okay, here we go. The chess game between Rook Exchange and Jim has commenced. All right, do you see the move?
Yep.
There you go. Okay, here we go. Perfect. The clock is ticking. This is great.
Anyone who watches this is going to be like, this guy has no clue what's happening.
It's definitely just supposed to be fun. So, I love it. Very nice. Is this your first chess game in a long time? Or how you just said that it's been a while, right?
Yeah, in about 6.5 years.
Okay.
And I played like 4 times before then.
Yeah. All right. Let's just go ahead and play this a4. Stop that pawn. Okay. You're giving me kind of this pawn storm that I'm nervous about, so maybe I shouldn't have castled here, but we will see what happens.
It's all part of the plan.
It's all part of the plan, it seems. Great. Okay. Now we're going to try to kick you out of there. I don't like your knight coming into my territory there, Jim.
That guy moves diagonal. Crud. Let's see. All right, let's think.
Your knight is under attack.
Yep, I'm trying to figure out how to mitigate the best way to mitigate that. I'm just going to retreat.
I like it. I like that. All right, let's see here. We have to make a couple moves here. Let's just get this knight out here. Let's develop a little bit. Great. Okay, let's see. I will play this. And I will play this. Very interesting game. Very interesting game, honestly.
That's what happens.
No, I'm serious. This is
when you're playing like the random output mode over here.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. We'll go with this one right here. Okay, let's go with
Probably what you wanted me to do.
this. Not necessarily. If you're going to attack my knight, Jim, I'm going to attack your rook. Okay. Let's go with this one right here. Attack the rook again.
Dang, that guy's in the way. Let's see. Get out of here, man.
Oh man, the amount of times I've said that. Man, why does this piece have to be in the way? Now we're gonna take your queen over here.
Oh
with
no!
Check. That was the plan.
Moron. Okay. It's gonna set me up with something.
It happens. It happens. All right, let's go with. Let's see. How about we jump in with the knight? We'll give this check. Oh no, Jim. Oh no.
I don't even know why you're saying that. That's the bad part. Okay.
That's funny. We we have never lost yet on Rook Exchange, but we will be losing soon because we will be playing against grandmasters. That's a little bit of foreshadowing for everybody who watches Rook Exchange. We'll be playing with some grandmasters at some point, which will be very, very cool. We've got plans, so everybody stay tuned.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Except I outlasted the father-in-law, right?
You certainly did.
Okay.
Yes, we are currently on move 20, and I think this is the conclusion right here.
Uh-oh.
With Queen C8 checkmate.
No.
Very fun, Jim. Very fun. Thank you for appeasing us here at Rook Exchange. Chess is a really wonderful game, and it's something that's just supposed to be fun, everybody. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Just really, really thankful that all of our guests, play chess with us. And I've been on the ropes a couple times. I've won quickly a couple times. I certainly would not call 21 moves quickly. So you did a good job there, Jim. Thank you for playing some chess with us.
Yeah, anyone who's like, there's no way I'm going to hire this guy. He has zero strategy for anything.
That's so funny. One of the that's certainly not true. One of the greatest players on the planet. He hovers between number 2 and number 3, and sometimes number 4 in the world. His name is Hikaru Nakamura. He says, I don't think I'm particularly smart at all. I've just dedicated my life to this game. Right, and so it's not about that. That is a misconception. I will say, I asked you about a misconception about financial planning. A misconception about chess is you have to be super smart to play well. That's not the case. It's just practice. I've been playing 20 years, Jim.
That's what I realized 6 years ago when I started playing, like for that 2-month-long stint.
Yeah.
Was if I'm going to get good at this, I need to play a lot. And at that point, we had just had our first kid, and I was studying for my CFP, and I was like, I don't have time. So I decided at that point I was going to hang up my career.
Hang up your career, right?
What could have been was probably not much.
Yeah, we love chess over here at Rook Exchange, and we think that it brings people together. And one thing that we really think, especially for the youth who get into chess, we think that not only does it teach strategy, but it also teaches maturity, right? So everybody who's watching, when you lose a game of chess, or you win a game of chess, right? If you lose, learn from it and take it as a gift, an opportunity to learn from your mistakes. And if you win, don't gloat. Take that as an opportunity to realize that you've learned something, right? And so that's really the idea. And so, Jim, thanks for the game once again. We are going to keep this interview less than an hour. We are getting close to the hour mark, but we have one more question. And in typical Rook Exchange fashion, this question was generated by ChatGPT. We put in some of your information into ChatGPT, and we put in some of your expertise as well. So the question is, in light of rapid technological advancements, how do you foresee the future of personal finance evolving over time?
Hopefully personal finance will become more personal. Like obviously there's so much of what I do that has to do with taking in data. Like what I do is like working this massive puzzle all the time. And the thing is that there's new puzzle pieces constantly throwing in as taxes change and as legislation comes in and updates new estate planning laws and as the markets change or whatever. Like there's always new puzzle pieces coming in. There's also new puzzle pieces with families' lives. Like this year, I've probably been told by 10 clients, hey, Jim, we just found out we're having another baby. Hey, we haven't told anyone else yet, but we thought that you should know. Like, that's amazing. What a privileged job I have. And yeah, I think for financial planners to keep up, you'll have to lean into that personal side of things and recognize that people aren't spreadsheets, and you need to have those intimate conversations with people. And that excites me because that's my favorite part of my job.
I love that. That's one of the things that you said that just resonated with me so much, and I'm going to take with me that people aren't spreadsheets, people are people. And that's just a really awesome way for, not individuals who are financial planners per se, but, just everybody in general, right? We, like in my family, we work so hard to do so well in our financial planning, and we work so hard to make sure that we're taken care of and we are taking care of ourselves, right? And so it just really resonates with me a lot that people are people are not spreadsheets. And also just your outlook as a successful financial planner with your own firm, saying that it really is so important that you look at finance from a few different angles, including your current desires, right? When it comes to the things that you want to do with your life, bring the current, bring those things that are valuable to you now into your financial planning. And that's just really refreshing to hear from you, Jim. So thank you for a wonderful interview. We really appreciate you. We're going to put some of Jim's information down in the description if you want to check that out. We'll definitely put his company in the description as well. And thank you, everybody, for watching episode 6. We'll see you soon.
Awesome guess. Average check.